If you say nothing, I'll assume you're okay with that. Okay, perfect. Okay, morning everyone. My name is Odile. I'm a lecturer in the Wits School of Governance. And today we're going to talk about preparing your work for submission, so editing and, formatting your document in a way that, you automate it as far as you can. I'm going to share my screen with you. I have a little bit of a presentation that I will share with you afterwards. So you don't need to write every single word down, but you're welcome to make notes for yourself. And then we're going to work on the document that I sent you. I hope you all have it. So you should have the agenda. We give you a breakdown of what we're going to do. It's sort of like a rough breakdown of the time we will spend on each of the sections. I'm sure we won't stick to it strictly, but it's just to sort of help me cover everything that I want to cover in the workshop. And then you should have a document, an example document that I sent you, and a style guide. If there's anyone who doesn't have those 3 documents, you need to tell me now so I can email you. And then, like I said in the email, if you have your own document that you want to work on, your own Word document that you want to work on, then that's fine as well. Okay, so no one has said that they don't actually have those documents. So I'm going to start. I'm just going to put my video off and then I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, I hope you can all see. I hope you can all see the screen. Letting people in here still. I also just want to find the chat in case there is anything in the chat. Ah, perfect. Okay. So if you want to drop something in the chat, you can do that. I actually have it open here. All right. So if everyone has the example document and the style guides, then we can start. I just want to show you what it looks like in case you don't know what it looks like. It's this one. And then the style guide is the second document that I sent you. All right, which should look like this. But yeah, like I said, if you don't have it, just tell me in the chat and then I'll forward it to you. But I'm going to start with this presentation. Like I said, I'll share it with you. And basically, this presentation it just covers strategies for self-editing. All right. Also, I just want to say that if you do have questions, please do ask them. I don't think I can see hands from what I'm looking at right now. So you're welcome to just start speaking, or alternatively, you can ask a question in the chat, like I said. Okay, so I'm sure you all know as research students, what it takes to prepare your work for submission to your supervisor, or for those of you who haven't submitted yet, to your examiner. And what often happens is that, at the point where you're still submitting work back and forth to your supervisor, you don't actually have someone who can edit your work. So what a lot of people do is, once you've done your research and, your supervisor has said, okay, you're ready for examination now, what a lot of people do who are privileged enough to do that, they actually...
for this sales agreement, for me and Hafid, as a witness, just sadly.
I'm just going to mute you all. I'm sorry.
Can I?
Okay, there we go. Okay, so what a lot of people are privileged to do is they actually get to submit their work to a professional editor. But if you're doing like a master's, and you have a scholarship or that sort of thing, you could easily afford that. But if you're doing like a PhD, it could cost anything from like 40,000 Rand upwards because of the size of the document. So a lot of people don't actually get to appoint like a professional editor. So it's good then to have strategies for self-editing your work. But not only for the examination process, it's also good for when you are submitting work to your supervisor. And the reason why that is, and that's what's on the first slide here, is that you likely get faster feedback. So what I found with my students, for instance, is, if someone's, if their document's not formatted correctly, the referencing is not right, there's a lot of spelling and grammar mistakes, you end up spending a lot of time fixing those things for the student, and then you take longer to give the student feedback, which is not nice. The same goes for examination. The better the document reads, the faster the examiner can read through the document. So it doesn't necessarily mean you will definitely get faster feedback, but it means that there is a chance you can improve the time in which you'll get feedback, because then you're not leaving your examiner or your supervisor, to sort of go through all those mistakes that you have in your document. Another thing that it also allows the reader to do, whether it be the supervisor or the examiner, is that they can actually focus on the arguments that you're making in your document, rather than, sort of filtering through the mistakes, the grammar, the editing, and all that stuff. So that way you actually get more constructive feedback on the arguments that you're making in your paper, which is really what you want people to focus on. You don't really want people to focus on spelling and grammar, if you're writing sort of something groundbreaking. If you're doing like groundbreaking work, it really doesn't matter if people can't make sense of what you've put in your document. Then the technical quality of your document is also taken into consideration in your final mark. So if you have a chance, to ask your supervisor to share with you an example of an examiner's report that's been written maybe for another student, or like a guide that they use when they examine other students. And you'll see that there's usually a question that asks, is the writing and the referencing style, how do you say, like sufficient for the level at which the student is registered for. So if you're doing a master's, the question will be, is the writing according to how you would expect a master's student to write or a PhD student to write? And that is taken into consideration. This can also affect your final mark. So, if you're writing something really good, and it's like worthy of a distinction, you might then lose that distinction because the presentation of the document is not good. The same thing if you sort of at the bottom of the scale, if someone is considering failing your project, but they're unsure about it, if your document doesn't look good, that could sort of just push them over the edge and say, what, this is definitely a fail. And then also you want to sort of revise your work as you go. So if you're writing your final research report, your thesis or your dissertation, you want to make sure that you've read it at least 2 or 3 times. So if you are doing the self-editing process, it could sort of help you to scan over the document another 2 or 3 times. So you can sort of revise as you go. So I just have a few tips in this presentation for how you can go about self-editing your work. And like I said, if you have any questions about any of them, you're welcome to ask as you go. So the first thing is that you need to give yourself space for writing. And yeah, I really want to just distinguish between writing and editing. So a lot of people write and edit at the same time, and they don't actually know that they are doing it. So writing means you're putting your ideas on paper. Editing means you're going back and you're revising what you've written. So for a lot of people who revise and edit at the same time, they don't actually, or they write very slow, because what you're doing is you're writing a paragraph and then you're reading the paragraph again to fix the grammar, the punctuation. If you're writing, you just want to get what's in your head onto paper, and then you want to go back later and go and edit that piece of work. That also helps to see if your work actually makes sense, because you're going back for a second time to go and read it for a second or a third time. But if you are separating the writing and the editing process, it means that you need to give yourself enough time to do both of those things. So plan in advance how you want to do that. So a lot of people also do this when they need to submit their final research reports. They sort of write up until almost the end of February, and then there's no time for editing the work. So if you are submitting next year, February, for instance, try and have your first draft done by the end of December or the end of January latest. So you have the whole month of February, you know, for you and your supervisor to go back and forth to edit that work. Well, that obviously works if you've been sending your work in bits and pieces to your supervisor. You obviously don't want to send your first draft at the beginning of February. If you can avoid that, that would be great. But this is just about giving yourself time to actually edit and not pushing your writing up to the deadline of whatever deadline you have, your submission deadline. Okay, then divide the manuscript into sections. So with editing, you want your brain to be fresh. So you don't want to read the entire document in one sitting because you then get tired as you read. So say, for instance, that today I'm going to edit the introduction. Tomorrow I'm going to edit the first half of the literature review or the first 3 pages of the literature review, because it really is like a very intensive exercise. So you want to make sure that, like, you know, you're on your A game when you go through your document. So divide your manuscript into sections so that you make sure that, you know, every day you're starting afresh with a short section, and then, you know, you're really like focusing in on that section when you start editing. Then don't be afraid to remove irrelevant sections. So a lot of people get stuck on maybe a really like a good piece that they wrote and they don't want to remove it. And so they just sort of try to force it into the document. Don't be afraid to remove those sections. You can always, what I do is I create 2 documents. I have my actual document that I'm working on, and then I create another document that I name removed from this document. And that's where I put stuff that I want to delete from the document but that I maybe want to keep because I might need it later. Maybe I want to publish a journal article from my research report or my thesis or whatever, a journal article from my thesis. And then I'll go back to the removed section. Or maybe at a later stage, I realize that I need that paragraph for what I'm saying now because I'm changing my work a bit. And then I have that in a document. But if something is not relevant, even if it's really good, you need to remove it from your document. Then you can build up an editing checklist. So what I do is, okay, come on. Mute your mics if you are not speaking. Keep a button. There we go. Sorry. So build up an editing checklist. So what I do is I have a little list of things that I do. So for instance, you know, if you're writing, sometimes things move around on your pages. That would mean that you need to update the table of contents. But if you are submitting in a hurry, you might forget to do that. And then the page numbers on your table of contents doesn't actually match what's in the document. So that's the sort of stuff you can have on your editing checklist, is to check that you've updated your table of contents, check that you've updated your referencing list, check that, you know, you don't have headings that are like at the bottom of a page. So you can just scan through your document and build up that editing checklist for yourself. Because when you want to submit, you just want to submit. You don't care about, you know, what still needs to be done on the document when you're in that hurry. Then read from a hard copy. So a lot of people read from their screens. Sometimes you miss mistakes if you're working from the soft copy. So you want to try and read from a hard copy. Just print your document out, and then you make changes on your hard copy. You then go back to your soft copy and effect those changes in your document or implement those changes. Reading from a hard copy really does make a difference. Read your work aloud. So if you are reading on your screen, you are seeing with your eyes. Sometimes what you see with your eyes, you can miss if you listen with your ears. So reading your work aloud, reading your paragraphs aloud when you do the editing is also useful. Ask someone else to read your work aloud. Here you will be able to hear how your work sounds coming from someone else. Does it sound the way you want it to sound? It's useful to get someone else to help you with that if you have a friend who's kind enough to do that. or you can just ask them to read your work and give you comments. That can also help you with editing if you have a colleague who's kind enough to do that. Then read from back to front. So this just means not reading from the introduction to the conclusion. Maybe start in the middle with the methodology, then go to the introduction, then go to the conclusion, then go to the literature review. Sometimes if you switch it around, you can pick up stuff that you won't necessarily pick up if you're reading from front to back. Okay, and then use your most productive time for writing. So this is again related to this being like very mentally intensive. So you want to make sure that you choose a time of day when you're most productive to do this. So you can pick up any mistakes that you want to pick up or that you need to pick up. So you sort of need to figure out when's your best time for editing. Usually that'll also be the best time for writing as well. So if you know that you used to write at 3 to 6 o'clock in the morning and that's when you did your best work, then do your editing at the same time, because that's when your brain will be sort of most alert. Okay, and then add words to your dictionary. So this is your dictionary on your computer. You can add words in your autocorrect library. I'll show you how to do that a bit later, but it does help with certain phrases in your document that you use often that Word picks up as incorrect. What I've noticed is that a lot of people have like sort of red lines in their document, when you word things that something is incorrect. If you add the word to your dictionary, Word will stop underlining that. And then that removes the sort of red lines that you have, the red lines or the blue lines that you have in your document. And if you have fewer red lines or blue lines or green lines in your document, it means that you can actually pick up the mistakes in your document easier. If you've got like a lot of red lines, you won't be able to distinguish between what is actually wrong and what Word thinks is wrong. So it's useful to add words to your autocorrect dictionary. Okay, and then you can use a grammar revision journal or highlight common errors. So this is very labor intensive, but I think this is useful if you want to become a writer in the long term, because that way you are actually able to pick up your own mistakes and fix them as you go. So this is an example of a grammar revision journal where someone has put the error in the one column and then they've put the revision in the next column. Maybe your supervisor has given you a suggestion for a revision. And then they just give like a little rule for themselves. What I also do is, because English is not my first language, is sometimes I put rules on my wall that I struggle with. So, like adding a S to a verb when you're using a singular and removing it when you don't, or when you're using a plural. I struggle with that a lot. So I actually have that rule on my wall. So if I'm wondering, okay, do I need to add the S here or not? I just look at the rule on my wall and then I implement it in my document. Wrong way. And then you can use editing tools. So there's Grammarly, which is great. You can also use Grammarly for emails, by the way, which is nice. So with Grammarly, you just paste your work into Grammarly. They usually have a little window there where you paste your stuff, and then they give you suggestions on how to improve your writing. So they'll give you they'll tell you when you have actual errors in your document, but then they also give you suggestions on how to rephrase your writing or your words or whatever. Okay, and then you can also use the word spell checker. And then there are other resources at that link that I've provided there. But like I said, I'll share these slides with you afterwards, and then you can use those links. All right, so those are strategies for self-editing. There are many others as well, but these are just sort of like the main ones that you'd find from people who talk about editing. If there are any questions at this stage, you are welcome to ask them. Otherwise, I am going to go to the Word document now that I've shared with you. Okay, no questions then. Okay, let me just share my screen again. So this is the Word document that you should have in front of you. And then these are the style guides, which we will use in a bit. But the first thing I want to show you in this document is styles and navigation. So a lot of people don't actually use styles and navigation, and it can be like a very tedious process if you need to fix something in your document and you don't use this. It's good to sort of automate the document as far as you can, to make sure that if your supervisor says you need to change something in your document, you can literally change it with the click of a button. But what I want to show you here is the styles, which is in the styles pane at the top here. These styles can also help you with the table of contents, which some people do manually. I would never recommend that you do a table of contents manually, because then you're just creating a lot of work for yourself. So the style and navigation tab allows you to sort of format different styles in your document differently. So here I've put in heading 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I put in body text. So you'll see that the first block here is highlighted, which is normal. And you can see that normal is Arial, and it's the font size is 12. If you right click on this normal and you say modify, then this is where you'll see the settings in inverted commas for normal style. So currently the document is entirely normal. So if I wanted to change the font of the document to 11, I could just change that here, or change the line spacing, and then that would change the document, or everything that is marked as normal in the document. Currently, everything in the document is marked as normal. So that is why everything changed. But what is really useful here is when you start using the headings. So yeah, I've marked heading 1, for instance. So I'm going to apply heading 1 to it. So this is how heading 1 is formatted in my current document. So if I right click it and I want to modify it, I could maybe say, okay, I don't want it to be 16, I want it to be 14, and I want it to be left aligned. And then there are further options if you click on the little format button. So you can go to font, you'll see that it's currently in all caps. If I maybe want to stop using all caps, sorry, my computer's a bit slow here, I can change that here. So if I untick all caps, then it becomes small, or I can click small caps. You can also change the same stuff here. So the font size, the font style, and the font size. You can also change the numbering here. So if you click on numbering, if I say I don't want this numbered, I can say none, and then that number should disappear. So if I say okay, you'll see that the number disappeared and it's left aligned and it's bold. So if I want to make this heading 1 equal to the heading 1 style, you can just highlight it and make it heading 1. So it's really good to do this at the beginning of your document, because if you then want to change all your heading 1s, you can then modify it and change it with the click of a button, instead of going to each one of the headings and changing them individually. Great. So those are the styles. What I want you to do though is I want you to use the style guide that you should have in front of you. This is just some styles that I took from a journal, where they've given style guides. but you will have your own styles from your research guide, your research degree guide. So usually your department will give you the type of referencing that they want you to use. Then they'll tell you your document should be formatted in Times New Roman or Arial or whatever with 1.5 line spacing, or it must be justified or whatever. So this is just an example of that. So here you will see that the format of the manuscript is written out here. So it says that the manuscript should be formatted with Arial font 11 with 1.5 line spacing, and it should be in MS Word format. So this is basically, this would be your normal style. So if I then go to normal style, I can format that as per the requirements. So they're saying that they want Arial, it should be 11, and they want 1.5 line spacing. So this is what the normal text will look like. So then they give you specific heading styles. So they say the first level heading should be boldface, normal case, centered, and on a separate line with 14 points. 14 point is the size of the font. So I can then modify that here and say, okay, they said 14, and I think it was left aligned. It was normal case. And then let me see if I did everything. Boldface, it is boldface, it should be centered actually. So you can then modify the headings according to what the style guide says. So you can do that the same with the second level headings, which says boldface, normal case, justified at the left margin and on a separate line. So I'm going to do that with the second level headings. But what I'm going to do here is I'm first going to modify the second level heading, and then I'm going to apply it to the document, to my heading 2s that I have here. All right, so I'm going to remove the numbering because currently it's numbered. So I'm going to say none. It's left aligned and boldface. And then my heading 2, I can make heading 2. All right. Is there anyone who is stuck at this stage? I know this can be a bit confusing if you're not used to this. Let me see where are participants. Okay, here you go. Or is there any question at this stage? Do the headings make sense? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. I'm going to do this with the third level heading as well. So they say that for the third level heading, they want boldface, normal case, justified at left margin, and 12 point. Okay, so that's heading 3. I'm going to modify it. It is bold-faced already. They want it in 12. I'm going to remove the numbering because they don't actually want numbering. And then justified at the left is what they want. Okay, and then this is heading 3 over here. Heading 3, heading 3. All right. And then my heading 4s, I'm going to just mark as heading 4. Okay, all my heading 4s are marked. And then I'm going to format it the way they want it. So they want it underlined, not bold, normal case, justified at the left margin, and size 12. Okay, so currently it's in italics. They want it underlined, not bold, justified at the left, on a separate line, and 12. There we go. Okay, so then it changes all the headings according to the formatting that you've been given. Okay, so another thing with the headings that I just want to show you, if you modify, is the paragraphs. So here you can also change the indentation of the paragraph. So sometimes they'll say that, you know, the first line of your paragraph should be indented. So if I go to normal, for instance, and they want the first line of the paragraph to have an indent, I can change that at paragraph and then say hanging. Sorry, not hanging, first line. That should then cause the first line of my paragraph to be like a little bit indented. You can also change the spacing before and after. So you'll find that sometimes with a heading, if you press enter after the heading, there's a really big space after the heading. If you don't want that space, then you change it in this section. So you can change the spacing to make it larger or to make it smaller. That's for after the paragraph or before the paragraph. You can create more space or less space before your paragraph. All right. So yeah, so this is just an extra feature that's in the paragraph feature. I'm just going to change it back so it looks a bit normal. And then yeah, so there's the numbering as well, which we saw briefly. If you want a numbering style to be taken on throughout the headings, you can change it in the second row where they actually show you what each heading will look like. So if you want your first heading to be 1, second heading 1.1, third heading 1.1.1, this is the one you'd use. You can also customize it. If you, for example, want your first heading to be A, B, and C, and your second heading to be 1, 2, and 3, this is where you can change it to look that way. All right. So you can play around with this. Try it out in your own document. This is, I mean, I've got 3 pages here, so it wouldn't be a lot of work for me to change these headings manually. But if you are writing a document of like 100,000 words or whatever, then it becomes really useful to be able to change the formatting of the entire document with a click of a button. And of course, you can choose as many level headings as you want to in your own document. A useful thing about the headings also is that it makes it easy for you to navigate your document. So if you go to view and you click on navigation pane, you'll see that it gives you a little bit of a navigation pane on the side here. So these are the pages. Currently, I only have 3 pages in my document. But if you click on the second little button here, it actually shows you your headings. So this is really nice. Like I said, you know, if your document reaches like 50 to 100,000 words, then it's really nice to just be able to use this navigation pane to run through your document. I'm going to show you another thing here, but I want to show it to you with the Pilcrow. Because sometimes what I do is to navigate my students' documents, I'll put on the navigation pane, but because the document is not formatted properly, then, you know, the document sort of doesn't, the navigation pane becomes useless essentially. But I'm going to show you how to also avoid having your navigation pane not have things in that aren't supposed to be there. But yeah, those are the headings. Are there any questions at this stage, or is everyone comfortable with the headings? Is there anyone that has a specific question about, sorry, not the headings, the styles of the document? Okay, I'll take that then as everyone being comfortable. All right, the next thing I want to show you is the use of the Pilcrow. So the Pilcrow is this little backwards P over here. And if you put it on, it gives you these little blue dots in your, or blue P's rather, in your document. So I just want to zoom in my document a bit so you can see. So what the Pilcrow does is it shows you where each new paragraph starts. So you'll see here, this is actually not one paragraph because there's a Pilcrow here. So if I want to make this entire body text a paragraph, I need to delete these spaces. So this is now a full paragraph. So you'll see that there's a space between the first heading and this first paragraph. And then you'll also see in between the letters are little dots. Sometimes what people do is they create too much space in their text, and then Word gives them this little blue line. And if this filter is not on, you can't actually see what the error is. But if you put it on, you can see where the problem is. What a lot of people also do is that at the beginning of a paragraph, they actually leave a space. If this is not on, you can't see it either. So sometimes what I found is, especially if I'm reading a hard copy of my students' work, sometimes I can see that, you know, there's that space that shouldn't be there, but then I can't show them what it is because they can't actually see it. So you need to put on the Pilcrow to see the space. So you should literally only have one dot between each word. And according to how you formatted your document, you should have spaces between your headings or not. Sometimes the formatting will require that you don't have a space between your headings, but this will help you to see what exactly is happening in your document. So this is very useful, you know, when you're doing that final scan over your document, and you just want to make sure that you don't have spaces in the wrong place. So here, for instance, by the figure, you can see there are two spaces. I can remove the one space if there should only be one space between the figure and the paragraph. So that's just the use of the Pilcrow. If I am writing, I don't put on the Pilcrow. If I'm editing, then I do. Because if I'm editing, then I literally want to see the details of my document. I want to see where it's, you know, where there might be mistakes, you know, where I might have spaces that I'm not supposed to have, or maybe where there's a new paragraph that I haven't allowed a space to be in between. So this is a really useful tool to use when you start editing your document. Okay. And of course, this also shows you it's a little bit bigger when you do have headings. I just also want to show you what this does in the navigation pane. So let's say you have a space here and you've made it heading 1, but there's no heading. You haven't actually put in a heading. If you then use the navigation pane, you'll see that there's a blank space where there should be a heading. So I've seen a lot of students do this. So then I can't use the navigation pane because they have so many blank spaces in their navigation pane. But if you put on the Pilcrow, you can actually see where that heading is, because if you put on the Pilcrow, you'll also see these black dots that come up next to each of the heading. So if you see a black dot but no heading, then you know that that paragraph is formatted as a heading when it really shouldn't be. So you can then just change this to normal text, and that way it also removes the heading from your navigation pane. All right. So that is the Pilcrow. Are there any questions at this stage?
Yes, Odile, I have a small question, please. I'm following you from my phone. I couldn't see properly from which table you did activate that Pilcrow. I even don't know how to pronounce it. Can you make your screen a little bit bigger and show us exactly where you activate it?
Okay, I can't actually increase the size of the the word navigation pane, but it should be, if you're in the home tab, you know, you have the box with the font stuff, and then you have the box with the bullets. So it should be the box with the bullets. So there's the box with the bullets, and then you have the styles next to it. So it's in the box with the bullets. I don't know if you see it now, or sorry, I don't actually know how to make this word thing bigger. I can make the document bigger, but that's not what you want to see. Do you see it? It's like a backwards P.
I can see bullets.
Yeah.
But I can't see that P you were talking about, and I'm really lost. That's why I've been asking you if you can make your screen bigger and zoom so that we can see properly, because I'm really interested in what you are saying.
Goodness me. I really can't actually zoom this section here.
I'm very able to manipulate. I'm very able to manipulate the view pane because I usually use it.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm writing big text and so on. So I know. I just want to see where you activate that Pilcrow style so that we can have those blue
the blue P's. Yeah, I'm gonna try and share my other screen. Maybe it'll be a little bit bigger. My first screen. I don't know if that's a bit bigger, or is it the same?
Okay, I can see.
Can you
where
see?
Do you
Okay, so this is where the button is. It's right here.
Okay. You just activate it.
You just click it, then it shows it, or if you click it again, then it hides it.
Sure.
Is this screen better than the other one?
This is better. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And actually being able to activate it. I'm fine now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll use this screen then. Just so you can see what is happening. All right. Okay, so that's the use of the Pilcrow. If there are no questions, then I'm going to go on to tables and figures. Okay, so there are no questions. Okay, so with tables and figures, I just want to show you how to add a caption to your tables and your figures, how to format your notes, if you add notes to your tables and figures, and also how to cross-reference your tables and figures if you want to refer to it in your text. So this is also about just automating your document as far as you can. So if you have tables in your document, tables and figures, some people manually number their tables. What that means is that if you add a new table or figure into your document, you then have to renumber the entire document's tables or figures. But if you add captions to it using the references tab, then it means that if you add a table in the middle of your document, then it'll automatically rename all your or renumber your tables and figures to accommodate that new table or figure. So to do so, you need to go to the references tab, and then you'll see that there's a little section here where you can insert captions for tables and figures, and you can also cross-reference them in the text. So I'm just going to add a caption to this table. So I'm going to click on the table itself and then say insert caption, and then you'll see it gives you table 1. So if you already have other tables in your document, it'll give you the number that you should have. So for example, let's say I already have 3 tables in my document. This would have given me table 4, for instance. So what I do then is I put in a colon, and then I name my table whichever way it needs to be named. So I'm just calling it table with information. And then you can choose the label. So if you're using a figure, for instance, you'll choose figure. Sometimes it'll require that you use the fig dot abbreviation. If you're doing an equation, this is also useful if you number your equations, or you can just leave it on table as it is. So I have these A, B, C's, and D's because I actually, in my appendix of my PhD, I name my tables according to the appendix. So if I have a table in appendix A, I call it table A1, A2, A3, etc. So this is why I created all these labels for myself. But this is just a normal table. And then you can choose if you want it above or below the selected item. So if you say above, then it means this caption will be above the table. If you say below, it means that this caption will be below the table. So I like it above because I want to put notes at the bottom of my table. And then I click OK. And then it says table 1, table with information. If I now want to label the second table, I can say insert caption again, and then it automatically gives me table 2. So then you can label your table whatever you want to call it. And then again, you can choose above or below the selected item. What is important is that you use a consistent style. So if you start with above, don't end with below. So if you choose above, make sure that all your table labels are above the table and not below. Or if you do below, make sure all your tables are below the table. Okay, so those are tables. I just want to label this figure as well. This is just a figure I took from one of my papers. You can do the same thing, insert caption, and then you can just do figure, because this is a figure now. So I'm just going to say figure with information. And the same thing applies, so you can choose where you want it. I like it above my figures and my tables because, like I said, I want to add notes, like where I got the data from or whatever else needs to be added as a note. Okay, so what is also useful with the tables is that you can format your captions, or not your captions, because this is the caption, the notes that you have for your table. So what you can do is, what I like to do is I like to create a new style. And to do that, you can open the styles pane. So you'll remember that the styles are on the home tab of your Word document. If you click styles pane, it'll actually open up all the styles. So you can either work from this little box at the top here, or you can open the styles pane and then it shows you all the styles. So you can also, if you, for example, want to modify your headings, you can do the same thing from the styles pane. But what I want to do here is I actually want to create a new style for my table captions or my table notes. So I'm going to say new style, and then I'm going to say, okay, it should be Arial. Maybe I wanted the font to be small, 9, and I want it in italics, and I wanted single spaced. And then I'm gonna call it table notes or table or figure notes. And then I can say okay. And then I want to apply it, so it's gone up here now. I want to apply it to my notes at the bottom of my tables. So I can do the same here for these notes, and then I can also do the same here for these notes. So let's say you've added all these notes, and then your supervisor tells you, no, you need to have your notes centered for your tables. If you did not format if you did not format your notes, then you'd have to do it all manually. But if you did format your notes, then you can literally just modify your style and say modify and center the text, and then click OK. And then that centers all your notes for your tables and your figures. For Nana, I'm not understanding your question. The position part does not allow me options. I don't know if you can speak maybe, just to provide some clarity.
Hi. I don't know if you can hear me. I was doing as you were doing. I don't even remember where I clicked, but now it didn't give me that. You know, when you are on that tab, it did not allow me to enter anything on the position part.
Oh, wait, what are you referring to exactly?
What were we on now? Now let's go back. Don't even remember where we were. That was when we were doing the tables, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then formatting them using the automated what you were showing us, that one. So I am able to put the figure.
Yeah.
And the label, but there on the position side, like yours, it's white and they and the arrows show. So mine, it's like the label part above. So I'm not able to click on it.
So you don't have this position at all, or it's grayed out?
It's grayed out. I don't know whether it's my laptop or maybe there is a step that I missed.
No, I don't think there's a step that you missed. Do you mind if we just check what the problem is at the end of this? Then we can do a Google, because if it's there, then you should be able to do it. So maybe there's just a setting that you need to change on your computer or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, but I'll remember. I'm making a note.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is basically just formatting the notes of your tables, but also just showing you how to create a new style if you feel like the styles that are here are not useful for you. Another thing that's also useful here that I didn't actually show you is the footnote. So you'll see that the footnote text also has its own style. So if you want to change it, you can change it the same way you change the heading. So maybe you want to increase the line spacing of your footnotes, or you want to make them smaller, or you want to make them bigger. You can do that here as well. So if you do change the footnote text, or if you do want to change it, you should just click on a footnote, and then that'll bring up the footnote style. And then, of course, if you change the style, then it changes the style for the entire document for all your footnotes, which is also very useful. Okay, so we created a new style using the notes. So what I want to show you now is how to cross-reference your tables and your figures in your text. So if you are doing your tables manually, if you're numbering them manually, it means that you're going to have to number them manually in your text as well. But what you want to do is you want to automate these things as far as you possibly can. So let's say I have a text above my first table and I want to refer to the table in my text. I can do that now using this label that I've created for my table. So let's say I want to say, according to table 1, what I would then do is I would go back to my references tab and go to where you inserted your caption, but then you click on this little cross-reference button. Then you need to choose your reference type. So because I'm working with a table, I'm actually going to choose table. then it's going to bring up all the tables that are in my document. And then you need to choose what needs to go into the sentence. So if you say entire caption, then it means that Word is going to insert the entire caption for the table. So it's going to say table 1 : table with information. But often we don't want that. Often we just want to say, according to table 1, da 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 da. So I'm going to go to the cross reference again. And then instead of saying entire caption, I'm going to say only label and number. And that means it's going to include only table 1 for me. So according to table 1, okay, so now you have table 1 in, and you'll see that this is a hyperlink. So you'll see that there's this little tick box here that says insert as hyperlink, which means that if someone clicks on this table or this link, it'll actually take them to table 1 in your document. The same is true of figures. So I'm just going to cross-reference this figure. Because I'll need the figures, I'm just going to click on figure here. And then I'm not going to say entire caption. I just want the label and the number. And then I'm going to insert it. So there you have figure 1 in your document. So if you now, let's say I want to insert another figure here. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that I've inserted a figure here. And I'm now labeling it as my figure 1. Oh, okay. Vonani, I see what's happening with your thing. So you see, I haven't selected anything. Now my position is also grayed out. So if you label your tables and figures, just click on it. So that Word knows what you're labeling. Yeah, I just clicked on the figure and then it knew what I was labeling.
Oh, all right, I see.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not actually labeling anything because I'm just inserting a fictional figure. So let's say that this figure was here. What this would do is it updates this figure to figure 2 now, because now it's the second figure in the document. But what it doesn't do is sometimes it won't update what you've put in the sentence. I know that there are other computers where this happens. It just doesn't happen on my computer. So what you can do is you can just right click it and say update field, and then it'll change it to figure 2 to reflect the new number of that figure. So usually I sort of just do this as I go. This is also what the self-editing part is useful for, because when you go through your document, you just want to make sure that everything matches. So maybe you've inserted a new table and it didn't update the numbers in a sentence somewhere. You'll be able to pick that up if you do your proofreading exercise. So that's just cross-referencing tables and figures. I'm just going to cross-reference this last table. Okay, so it's a little bit more work than just typing table 2, but it's going to make your life much easier if your document is automated like this. The last thing I want to show you with tables and figures is the list of tables and figures. So this is useful to have at the beginning of your research report or your dissertation or your thesis, especially if you have a lot of tables and figures, because then it makes it easy for your examiner or your supervisor to find tables or figures if they just want to go back to where it was before. So to insert a list, you can use this button that's also here next to the insert caption button. So again, it gives you the same list that you had when you inserted the caption. I want to insert my list of tables, so I'm going to click table. And then you can also decide what type of format you want to use. It's nice to use the same format that you're going to use for your table of contents, which we'll do in a little bit. And then you can modify whichever options you have here. So for instance, you can use them as hyperlinks. So if someone clicks on it, it takes them to the table in the document. Include label and number, show page numbers. You know, you can change the tab leader, so that just changes, you know, the tab leader. I don't know what else to call it. But if you click OK, it's just going to insert the list of tables that I have in my document. And if I click on one of them, it takes me to that table in the document. You can do the same thing with the list of figures. But then you just click on figure, and then it'll insert the list of figures for you. If you didn't automate this process, then you'll have to do it manually. So this is also why it's useful to use the captions rather than labeling them manually. All right. Are there any questions at this stage on the tables and the figures? Okay.
Me, I would just say that you've been so quick that maybe you thought your audience doesn't understand these things so easily, but no.
Should I repeat something?
Yes, you've been too quick in inserting this list of tables and so on.
Okay, let me do this again. I'm going to delete this. Okay, so to insert the list of tables and figures, you go to the same place where you inserted the captions for the tables and figures. So you'll just see that it says tables of figures dialog. So it says insert table of figures. If you click on that, you can just, this is the same labels that you had when you inserted the captions. I'm going to click on table because I want my tables to go into this list of tables. And then I'm going to click OK. And then it should give me all the tables that I have in my document. So if I add new tables to my document and I update this list, then it'll add those tables for me. So the same thing with the list of figures. I'm going to click the same insert button, but now I'm going to click figures because I want the list of figures, and then I'm going to click OK, and then it brings up all the figures that I have in my document, or all the figures that are auto captioned in my document with the corresponding page numbers. Is that okay, Lena?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, anyone else need a recap, or can we move on to page numbering and table of contents?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to ask you if there is a way of automatically converting footnotes into endnotes or vice versa.
There is. I think it's over here.
Hello?
Clifford, is that you?
Hello, no, it's Farai.
Okay.
Thank you. I wanted also to ask concerning the version of Windows. Are all these applications available on all versions of Windows, or there is a recommended version?
I'm not quite sure. I don't know what version I have here, but I think it might be 2016. So it's quite old. But yeah, these things get updated as the new versions become available.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so just to answer the footnote, endnote question, there is a way to do that. I've done it before because I remember there was a journal article where they wanted endnotes instead of footnotes, but I can't remember how to do it. I'd need to do a quick Google search, and then I can help you with that question. But I'm adding this to, well, we've now already figured out for Nani's problem with the position of the tables, but I'm adding this to the end of the workshop, if that is okay.
That's fine. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions at this stage before we move on?
Odile, it's Clifford speaking here. I just want to check the whole recording, the whole workshop. Is it going to be available for us to access so that some of us, at my own pace now, I will need to go through all of this, step by step. Is this going to be available for us?
Yes, I will send you the link to the recording.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna move on to page numbering and tables of contents. Okay, so to add page numbers to your document, I just want to make this 2 pages next to each other so you can see it. You can go to the insert tab and then insert page numbers. And this is very important. You won't believe how many people actually submit documents without page numbers, and then it's very difficult to refer them to where they need to, fix mistakes or whatever. So it's important that every document you submit has page numbers. So that if I say, for example, on page 3, look at so-and-so error, you know which page I am talking about. But also you'll see here that Word has inserted page numbers here for your list of tables and figures. If you don't have page numbers in your document, this actually becomes very useless, because then someone can't actually go page through your document and see which page this is on. This is especially important if you are submitting, that hard copy of your document when you submit for examination. So it's very important to insert page numbers. Most of you will know this. So it's in the insert tab. You just click page numbers. You tell Word, where do you want it? Do you want it at the top of the page? Do you want it at the bottom of the page? Do you want it on the left margin? Do you want it centered, or do you want it on the right? I like to keep it on the right or in the center. And then there's also the show number on first page. So sometimes your first page is the title page, that has your name and your the name of your degree or the name of your article. Often we don't want the number on that first page. So then you can just untick that box. If you do want your number on your first page, you leave it ticked. And then you click OK. So now what we have is we have page numbers from page 2, because I've told Word that I don't want a page number on page 1, and then it goes all the way to page 4. So now this list of tables and figures with its page numbers actually becomes useful, because it means if someone now picks up my document and they see that something is on page 5 or page 7, they can actually just page to page 5 or page 7. What else this is useful for, though, is the table of contents. And that is what I want to show you now. So the table of contents is under the references tab. And please never, ever do this manually. Always use the automatic table of contents. And this is where your headings becomes useful. So I'm just clicking on custom table of contents. So you will remember that when we inserted the list of tables and figures, the dialog box almost looked the same. We had the same type of formats. So if you are choosing the modern format or the formal format for your table of contents, then maybe choose the same format for your list of tables or your list of figures, so that your document is consistent. I'm just going to use the from template one, which is what I used for the list of tables and figures. And then the next thing is very important. This is show levels. So this lets you choose how many levels of headings you want to have in your table of contents. And it's very important to remember that you don't need to include all your headings in your table of contents. So just because I have 4 levels of headings in my documents, so the heading levels are these headings. So I've used heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and heading 4. So I have 4 level headings in my document. Just because I used 4 level headings in my document doesn't mean I need to have 4 level headings in my table of contents. And the reason I say that is because sometimes people have such a long table of contents that the table of contents needs its own table of contents. So if I need to sort of page through your table of contents to find something, then it's not serving the purpose it needs to serve. The table of contents should be very short, 2 pages at the most, and it should be a reference guide for your reader. So if I want to find something in your document quickly, I should be able to go to your table of contents and find it quickly, and then check the page number and then page to the relevant page. If you have too many levels in your table of contents, then the table of contents just becomes a really sort of tedious thing to work through. So I like to keep mine to 3 at the most, or 2, depending on how many levels I have. So you can change this here. You can even just stick to 1 level heading. I'm going to say 3, and then you want to show page numbers. Otherwise, it really defeats the purpose. Here you can change the tab leader again if you want a solid line or a dotted line or whatever, or no lines. Sometimes no lines also makes it difficult to match the table or the page numbers to the headings. So I like to have some sort of line. And then you can use hyperlinks again. So it means that if someone has a soft copy of your document and they click on chapter 2, then the document already automatically jumps to table 2. So you can then click OK. And then it gives you your table of contents there. If you've changed something or you've moved around headings in your document, so your page numbers change here, you can just right click and then say update field, and then say update entire table, and then it'll update your table. This is also useful if you're changing your headings. So let's say I change this heading to introduction, I changed this to literature review, and I changed this to methodology. You'll see it doesn't automatically update here. I have to right click on it and then say update field, and then it updates the names of those headings. Okay. Then are there any questions on the I have lost sound? Thomas, I think it's your problem. Can everyone hear me? Lena, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I
we
can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, Thomas, I think it's your sound. You can just catch up on the spot on the recording. Are there any questions on the table of contents at this stage?
Hi, Odile, it's Mduzi. Do I have to separate, or can just be a lean, if you like, a close lineage between the table of contents, list of tables, list of figures, or does it have to be in separate pages?
Yes, so that's the next section. The breaks that I want to show you. Okay, so this is very important, because you know what some people do? I'm going to put on the Pilcrow so you can see it. They do this. Have you seen this? Have you done this?
Yeah.
Not good. Don't do this. What you want to do is you want to use breaks. So you want your table of contents on a separate page, and you want that to be separate from your title page, right? And then you want your, depending on how many tables and figures you have in your document, you want it on separate pages as well. So I have a long list of tables and a long list of figures. So I put the tables and figures separately. But let's say I only have 2 tables and I only have 2 figures in my document. These 2 can go on the same page, right? Then of course I want my introduction on a new page. So what I'm going to use now is page breaks. And this is where the Pilcrow becomes important. So what I want in my document is I want my title page on one page, and then I want to start my table of contents on the next page, right? So I'm going to insert the break where I want it to be, which is after my title page. And then I am going to go to layout and go to breaks. So it's here by margins, orientation, size, columns. You'll see these breaks. So the first section is page breaks, and the second section is section breaks. I'm going to use a page break. So you'll see there that it says mark the point at which one point ends and the next page begins. So if I click on that, it moves my table of contents to the next page. And of course, you can see that this Pilcrow is hanging around there. I want to delete that because I want my table of contents to start right at the top of the page. Now I want my list of tables to start on the next page. So I'm also going to insert a page break. Okay, so there I have my list of tables, and then I'm removing those two paragraphs to make sure that my list of tables is right at the top of the page. Then I want to insert another page break so my introduction can start on a separate page. And there I have my introduction on a separate page. My literature review I also want on a new page. I insert the page break and then just remove that paragraph. So my literature review is now on a new page. And then my methodology is also on a new page. If you don't put on this Pilcrow, then you won't be able to see the page breaks. So if I put off the Pilcrow, you'll see that it's gone. So I can't actually see where my page breaks are. So if you want to see your page breaks, you actually put on that Pilcrow, and then it'll show you your page breaks. The last thing I want to show you with the page breaks, or the breaks rather, are the section breaks. So you'll see that a lot of people will use different numbering styles. So maybe they'll, like from the table of contents, the abstract, the list of tables and figures, they'll use a different numbering style, and then they'll start the introduction on page 1. If you want to do that, you have to insert a section break and format your page numbers. So I want this section here with my title page, the table of contents, and my list of tables and figures to be one section. And then I want my introduction and the rest of the document to be a different section. So what I'm going to do here is, after the list of tables and figures, I'm going to insert a section break. So I'm going to go to layout again. And then instead of inserting a page break, I'm going to insert a section break on the next page. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my page numbers, and then I'm going to format them. I'm going to go to my second section, sorry, because I want my introduction to start on page 1, right? So then I'm going to say format page numbers. And then I'm going to say start at 1. So I'm not going to say continue from the previous section. So this means this section is going to restart the numbering. And then I'm going to click OK. So now you'll see that, sorry, I need to show my first page. Oh, sorry, let me do this. I need to show the number on my first page. Okay, yeah, it's showing now. So let me just do this again. I'm gonna format my page number so this new section starts at 1. And then my previous section, I'm going to change my format. Let's say I want these little, I don't know what you call these. You'll see that this is changed. So I've got these little different symbols. And then here I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Sorry, I don't know why this doesn't want to show my first page. Okay, there we go. Different first page. Okay, so you can see here that I've got these different symbols for my introduction, my list of tables and figures. And then from my introduction, I'm starting at page 1, 2, and 3. I know that was a bit fast. Do you want me to show that again?
Yes, please.
Okay, you don't have a section break. If you go to layout, and click on breaks, then the first section is page breaks and the second section is section breaks. So for section breaks, you use the section breaks part, and for page breaks, you use the page breaks part. I don't know if you see that, Vonani.
Oh yeah, I see it. The next page, continuous, even page, and odd page. So those are the section breaks. I was looking for something called section break. Now I see it now.
Okay, okay.
Right.
Okay, I'm just gonna remove these page numbers. Okay, they're all gone. Okay, so if I want to format two different numbering formats for my document, I need to include a section break, right? So you can all see where I've included the section break here. So this means these first 3 pages is gonna have one numbering format, and then the second section of my document, which starts at the introduction, because this is where I've included my section break, is gonna have a different numbering format. So I'm going to start and put my cursor in the first section, somewhere in the first section, and then I'm gonna insert page numbers, right? But because I don't want the normal 1, 2, 3, the Roman numerals, I want to choose a different numbering format. I want these ones. I don't know what you call them, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna insert this numbering format and then click OK. And I don't want it to show on the first page. So then you'll see I have these numbers in my document now, right? Ugh, it's doing the same thing that it did before. But this is sort of those different types of numbers, 1, 2, 3 over here. In my second section, which starts on the introduction, if I go to format page numbers, you'll see that under page numbering, it doesn't say continue from the previous section. If it says continue from the previous section, it means it's going to continue numbering from the previous section, right? So now I'm here on page 4. I don't want to do that. I want it to start from page 1. It's showing a different number format because the number format is actually different. But if I use the same number format, it'll just continue to page 4, 5, 6 using the same numbering format that the first section has. But if I wanted to start from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and use a different numbering format, I'm going to say format page numbers. And then I'm going to use 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to say start at 1. Do not continue it from the previous section. And then I'm going to say, OK. So now my page 1 is starting here again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I now go to my table of contents, you'll see there that my introduction is on page 1, 2, 3, as per the numbers that are now in the second section. If I said continue from the previous section, then those numbers would be different. So if I say continue from previous section and I update this, then it changes the numbers in the table of contents. Is that too complicated or does it make sense?
It makes sense, Odile. It's just that, as colleagues said, we will need maybe the recording and then go through it at our own pace and then try to understand.
Yeah, no problem. Another way that you can also manage the page numbers, just so you know, is you can double click on at the bottom here. So it opens the header and footer dialog box for you. So you can then also, change stuff around here if you don't like the way that I just did it. But you can sort of like play around with it and see, like what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And if if it's doing what it needs to do for you or not. But yeah. Are there any questions at this stage? I'm sorry, I know it was a bit fast. I think maybe next time I need to have more time for this. It's also sort of difficult to, because we're not like in a classroom to see if people are together or not. I'm just assuming that you guys are fine. But yes, you can absolutely use the recording. just to go over the parts again. You know, if you felt like it was too fast, you can then pause and play and do whatever it is that you need to do. Are there any questions? We've sort of got 2 minutes left. If there are no questions, I'm
sorry,
yeah.
Yeah, this is like yeah, a kindergarten question. You know, in your computer, where you click reference, you are able to show Mendeley management.
Yeah.
And Mendeley reference.
Yes.
I've tried to do that on my computer because I see that if it's there in your tab, it's much easier to fetch your references and then be able to have them as hyperlinks, because I think that's where the problem is. Yeah.
Mdu, I'm gonna share the referencing workshop recording with you. So Mendeley is a tool that helps you to automate your references, which is really useful. I'll send that link to everyone as well. It's a bit longer than this one. It's like a 3-hour workshop. But it basically just helps you to automate your referencing as well. So you save time doing that.
Okay. Thanks. This was also very, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to share my screen quickly, just for the footnote, endnote thing. So if you click on your footnote and you want to convert it to an endnote, you can right click on it, and then there's a convert to endnote button. If you want to do all of them, what you can do is you can click on your footnote and then click Control A, which then highlights all your footnotes. And then you can convert all of them to a footnote or to an endnote, whichever way you want to have it. Okay. Perfect. So if everyone's sorted, then I think we've come to the end of the workshop. I'll share the recording, like I said. I know it was a bit fast. That's my fault. I'm sorry. I'll try and allocate more time for this workshop next time. And then I'll also share the recording with you. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to email me. Yeah. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Odile.
Thank you.